All right, so here we are at the Embark selection screen where basically we're going to choose where in the world we are going to um, place our little colony. So you can navigate around with the arrow keys. If you hold shift and press the arrow keys, it moves in like increments of 10. On the left here is like the entire world map, or sorry, on the right, other left, is the entire world map. Here's kind of the region map, which is like a slightly zoomed in version of the world. If we had made a much bigger world, this would be like a much more zoomed in view of it, but since the world size we made was only medium, the region map is just barely bigger than the world map. And then the local map that you see up here is the actual like terrain features of the area you're actually going to play in. So down here you can see some controls, and so this is the world name, right? The portentous land, and then this is the kind of the region name, the continents of glorifying. All that stuff's randomly generated. Sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's just cheesy. But so if you look at this right here, WXDA, this basically allows you to move the local area. So if we're looking at region and we're looking at my little yellow flashing X, this is where I'm selecting kind of the macro selection of where I want to be in the world. And then WXDA allows me, if you look up here, you can see this moving, oops, hit S on accident. You can see this moving around. This allows me to fine tune within that local region where I want to put my embark. And then UMKH allows you to resize that so we can make our embark area bigger or smaller in either dimension. The bigger it is, the more stuff the game has to simulate and the poorer it runs. So the default size is a 4x4 like so. I like to go down to a 3x3 just because it makes the game run a little better and you don't really lose that much by doing it. So if we hit M to reduce the x-axis by 1 and then H to reduce the y-axis by 1, we now have our 3x3 embark area. So if we wanted to right now, we could just embark right here by pressing E, but what we want to do is find a desired location. So basically we can use this menu to look for an area with features that suit us. So the first thing we're going to do is the X and Y dimensions. Since we want to play on a 3x3, we're just going to hit left on the arrow keys to change these both to a 3. Savagery, you can change it to low, medium, or high, or NA. So NA is basically, disregard. Don't care if we leave it on NA, we don't care what the savagery rating of the area is. This is basically the danger level from like local wildlife. So on low, if you're in a low savagery area, you might, see like stray deer and stuff wandering around, real easy to hunt. Medium, there'll be some, harder things like maybe some hyenas or jackals and things like that. And high, I mean, you can have all sorts of crazy things like rampaging elephants that'll slaughter your entire fort and stuff. But so for us, we're just going to leave it on low because we don't want too much of a challenge since it's our first game. Evil is the same thing, a low, medium, high, but more of kind of supernatural elements of it. So if savagery is the natural stuff, evil is things like, are there necromancers around? Is like the entire land cursed? Does it rain, like acid rain that'll eat away my dwarf's flesh if they're outside when it's raining, that sort of thing. On high evil, in fact, there's a potential for the area you're in to be so cursed that everything reanimates itself. So like if your dwarf dies in like an industrial accident, he will come back as a zombie and then terrorize your entire fortress. So we'll leave that to low. Elevation you can change to basically only look at, stuff on the plains or stuff on the mountains. We don't really care about that. Temperature, let's leave it at medium. Embarking in like a blistering hot area or a freezing area has its own challenges. Rain we don't really need to worry about, neither do we need to worry about drainage. Flux stone layer, since this is our first fortress, we don't really care about it. But in general, you do want flux stone because it's what you need to make steel. So we'll turn it on. I don't think we'll ever actually need it for the purpose of these videos, but we'll just say yes. Aquifer, always change this to no. And the reason is basically an aquifer, if you embark above an aquifer, you'll get to a point where you're digging down and it's just, you know, an entire underwater lake basically on your entire area. And it's not impassable. There's different tricks you can use with, you know, digging through it and using pumps and stuff to get past it, but it is like a more advanced, you know, difficult thing to do. So we'll leave that to no. River, this basically determines whether or not it'll find spots with a river or stream or brook in it. The big difference is rivers are really big, streams are still big but smaller, and brooks are so small that you can walk straight across them. They are useful to have though, because that means the presence of fish that you can fish for. It's a good water source for your dwarves, which you'll need later on. And since it's a river, it's running water, so you can use it for power via water wheels to power stuff like pumps and whatnot. So we'll hit that to yes. Shallow metals, you can do none, yes, or multiple. Same thing for deep. We want multiple on both. We want to embark in like a nice rich land with lots of stuff so that it's not too hard. Soil, let's change this to greater than or equal to little, so that we have at least a little soil to grow crops in, and then clay we can leave at NA. So we've got all our options selected, and now we can just hit enter to do the search. And it'll start looking over everything. The red X marks are basically it finding areas that are not suitable. And you'll see it doesn't really put red over like the ocean because there's nothing to do there. You can't really embark on the ocean. All right, so it looks like this is a pretty evil land, and it looks like what is screwing us over is the low evil. So we'll hit escape to browse the results, and you'll see basically everything is red, so there's not a whole lot of options, and it's really hard to look at because you feel like you're about to have a seizure. So we'll hit F to clear the find results, and we'll do this over again, but we'll let the evil just be NA. And we'll just check and make sure before we embark that we're not embarking in like a cursed area. So we'll do that search again. There we go. Now we're getting at least a few options. All right, so now we got some good choices. So if we look, here's our little yellow X for the region selector. We just hit escape to go browse those results, and we go up to these green X marks. So we see here the find results is part of DFHack. It's like a plugin. It doesn't work perfect all the time. So you may find that, for instance, we selected like a medium temperature and it's hot. So it's not really ideal for us, but not great or not terrible either. Or you might see, you know, hey, I've selected deep metals, but I didn't get any. So just be aware of that and always double check the readings on the right here. So this is some kind of desert from the looks of it. We might be stuck. Ooh, there's an area down here, so let's head down here. All right, so we got a mountain. It's temperate, which is good. You know, it's not too hot, not too cold. Got shallow metal. There's only one. Deep metals and a flux stone layer. The problem is there are no trees. And no trees is really a difficult way to play the game. Simply because so much of the economy, especially in the beginning, relies upon it. So we're going to check these ones up here. This has kind of got what we're looking for, but it is scorching, so we want to avoid that if we can. And these ones are all telling us the same thing, so we'll go back down here and look at these again. A tropical savanna. So we got soil, shallow metals, deep metals, a flux stone layer, and we got a brook. Brooks aren't ideal. Like I said, we want streams for the, you know, the deeper water so we can use it for power, but brooks aren't terrible either. Boom, here we go. This is a perfect site. So it's warm, which is slightly worse than temperate, but not a huge deal. The trees, woodland means there's lots of trees around, but there's not too much. If you see heavily forested, you want to kind of steer clear of that because it's just a pain to deal with that many trees. The surroundings are calm, so we're not going to get like jumped by tigers as soon as we load in. It's got a stream, it's got a little soil, it's got shallow metals, deep metals, and a flux stone layer. So this is what we want. However, it's in this sort of 2x2, and 2x2 isn't unplayable, but it's a little small for my taste. So we'll hit U and K to open this back up to a 3x3. So we'll have a nice stream running through like the northwest corner of our map, and we'll have a bunch of trees and stuff to use. So we've got our area selected, and now we just hit the E key to embark. And here's where we'll talk about in the next video about your embark preparations. So that's it for this video.